You think you can save me? I don't need your help. You think you can feel me? I'll do it. You think you can feel? I'll do it just fine. You think you can change? I'll change.
I hope I'm never sitting courtside. Shit happened so quick it felt like there was no time. Body was programmed just to always be on go time. I think the clouds are on free. This ain't shit that all the homies can be. Running from the lies, slip and get up. Thinking about the bullshit, leading right up. Mama told me one day you run out of luck. Now I'm looking up, quick tail catching up. Born into that trench mind, niggas had no straight mind. Only thing we know is break a bitch and push that bread line. Head be filled with crazy shit like shorty, had my head tied like bitch. You know you ain't coming to me about no bedtime. Ain't no keep it real, I really feel like the pressure is really on me. I know pressure is a bitch, but I don't let feelings control me. I know I've been getting cold and my niggas was flaking on me. So I had to bet some bitches at some parties. But don't blame me for it, don't blame me for it. I'm too cheap for it. Just watch me going, no brakes. Just keep top speed flowing. Bless me, test me, line me up, I know that I'm the next thing. Praying so don't catch me and arrest me. Hope that every night I make it in my best sleep. I hope I'm never sitting courtside. Shit happened so quick it felt like there was no time. Body was programmed just to always be on go time. I think the clouds are on free. This ain't shit that all the homies can be. I hope I'm never sitting courtside. Shit happened so quick it felt like there was no time. Body was programmed just to always be on go time. I think the clouds are on free. This ain't shit that all the homies can be. Running from the lies, slip and get up. Even about the bullshit, leading right up. Mama told me one day you run out of luck. Now I'm looking up, control catching up. Alright, I ain't resist, but don't take my chain. No, you can't search my shit. Know how it goes. These just praying that shit. Give me my chance before my grave is dig. Bless me, test me, line me up, I know that I'm the next thing. Praying so don't catch me and arrest me. Hope that every night I make it in my best sleep. I hope I'm never sitting courtside. Shit happened so quick it felt like there was no time. Body was programmed just to always be on go time. I think the clouds are on free. This ain't shit that all the homies can be. Running from the lies, slip and get up. Thinking about the bullshit, leading right up. Mama told me one day you run out of luck. Now I'm looking up, quick tail catching up. Catching up.
YGF beats, baby.
Elevate my hustle, gotta get your stress. Cause you the kind of girl I wanna make to my wife. Ain't no point that anyone can make a know that ain't right. They can't tell me how I feel or what could be in my life. For all the minds I kill, told you many times you really mine for real. Cause something about your eyes always shine for real. Stick it out, you gon' sign the deal. For all the minds I kill, told you many times you really mine for real. Cause something about your eyes really shine for real.
That song is hot. Fire.
Little crazy light, baby, feeling on it lately. Heavy on my mental, so I'm in a booth for wavy. See me, I don't give a fuck, I'm open, I ain't shady. These niggas see it, so they hating. Sipping bottles again, dugging all of the feds. Putting lows inside the cover, we ain't splitting no bread. Getting all these different fabrics off your neck and your head. Hope that karma ain't gon' get me for what's coming ahead. My baby says she wanna love song.
Hey!
My baby says she wanna love song. My baby says she wanna love song. I'ma sing her this love song.
Hey!
Sing her this love song.
Hey, y'all. Those songs are so hot. I swear. They are just fire. Shout out to that little baby brother. I can't wait till you make the new songs because I'm gonna be my intros too. How y'all doing, Ariana, EJ? And I'm gonna call you later after the show, EJ too. Hey, Rodney, Bridget, Othello, Marlisa, Sammy, Lady Moon, everybody watching. How y'all doing? Oh, they do. Original intellect. Hey, Juan. Hey, now, y'all. So I'm gonna just get right into it. I was talking on Smoke's channel about some real interesting stuff, and it was really interesting to talk about. And it was about, you know, the people in New Orleans that in Baton Rouge that bought a city, incorporated it, and like took half of who's in New Orleans, which I thought was beautiful. I have no, you know, I'm in Connecticut, and the move they made in order to take control of how their communities are going to be ran, as far as the way their monies are applied, I swear, I think that was the greatest move, and I'm going to stand on it. I don't care. That's what you do when you get sick of horrible leadership. You take the people with you and start all over with your own town. And that was a great thing they did. I don't see nothing wrong with it. I don't care what the race is. I don't. I really applaud them. And seriously, I mean, when you got crackhead governments and municipality runners, and you know that's what they're, you know, do, and they just off the chain leadership, you take the people and you go. That's what you do. And that's what Chicago should do. Seriously. But I'm not going to get into that too much today. I want to get into martial law and the removal of illegal immigrants. And hey, Focus Mind, hey, Jeremy Royster. And I don't know how I want to do it first. I have slides where we're going to discuss martial law and mass deportation. Now, I also have a Trump interview about it, and I want to know if you guys want to see the slides first and watch the video last, or which one do y'all want first? I think we should do the video. Yeah, I think we'll do the video. And I don't know what happened to this other particular video that I had, but let me try and, because they're talking about it. Yeah, I'm going to show it only because Josh is up right now. I'm going to show 2 videos. And this is fair use. I'm not monetizing this particular segment anyway. But Josh is talking. Let's check it out real quick. Okay.
Over one.
All right. So the
legal immigrants deported.
They should face the consequences. Are a very small the population that President Trump is promising to deport.
Well, let's talk about the rest of the people who you don't want to be deported. You said in an article that you wrote recently, new report shows devastating costs of mass deportation. You wrote this in October. Do you remember this piece?
Yes, that is a summary of our report.
Yeah. So in this piece, and it's also in your written testimony, you talk about how much the economy will lose if the United States actually enforces our immigration laws and deports folks who are here illegally. And I want to quote you now. You say some industries would be particularly hard hit, including construction, agriculture, and hospitality, which can 1.5 million workers. What's the argument here? That there aren't American workers? Jobs?
No, and as I said previously, but the issue is
wages to rise?
I think that we want to pass a path to citizenship so we can have a level and fair playing field for every American.
Why would you want American citizens and those who are here lawfully to have to compete against illegal immigrants who, by the way, are often paid not minimum wage, who are not given the federally mandated benefits precisely because they're here illegally? Why would you want to drive down the wages of millions of working Americans who can't get those jobs in construction, agriculture, and hospitality because illegal immigrants are getting them? And suppressing wages in the meantime. Why would you want to do that?
Well, if you didn't hear my initial testimony, you know I don't want that.
Oh, listen, I read your testimony word for word, and I've been watching it, and I know what the answer is. You don't actually care about working people because you're absolutely hell-bent on this ideological agenda of opening our border. You want to give everybody who's here a path to citizenship. You want blanket amnesty. You talk about mass deportations. That's your word, not Trump's. You want mass amnesty, right? It's right here in your testimony.
We want a path to citizenship for
That's
people
amnesty.
who pass a background check, who pay a
That's
fine.
amnesty, who you just said there's millions of people, 13 million people. Right, 13 million people you want to dump into the labor force.
They are already
who will drive
in the labor force,
illegally.
Senator.
They're here, taking jobs from American citizens. And so, perfect. So here's your plan. So just if you're wondering, America, here's the Democrats' plan. Take the 13 million plus illegals who are here, taking jobs from Americans, taking wages down, taking health care benefits, and bring them here legally so that they can continue to drive down wages, flood the labor force, and suppress
Senator Hawley, they can't flood the labor force if they're already part of the labor force, which is
they are flooding the labor force now. That's what's happening now. Why do you think
majority have been here for over 15 years? Many millions have been here.
And what has happened to working class wages in that time, Mr. Reichlin-Melnick?
Working class wages are currently going up. Yes.
Oh, really? They've gone up over the last 15 years?
Over the last 15 years, I will have to consult the economists on that matter.
Yeah, they're down, way down. What world do you live in? Listen, here's the deal. The American people just voted. The American people just voted. You know what? It's my time, not yours. So you're here to answer my questions, not to offer a soliloquy. And let me just end with this.
Go, Judge.
Had a good look at your economic, and they voted against it. An open border for the last
messing up
yourself.
That's not me.
Say it again.
Yes, Senator.
And why are you undocumented?
I came here from a civil unrest. I had no choice. My life was in danger. My mom told me the story when I was trying to get my driver's license.
How old were you when you came?
I came here when I was 7 years old.
What do you do today?
I'm a prosecutor. I represent victims of crimes and go after heinous people that have committed crimes against the Mormons family.
You've talked about Miss Morin's situation a minute or so earlier, but the perpetrator of the crime against her daughter Rachel would be the type of person that you would prosecute?
Yes, Senator.
I think there is a fundamental difference we're being asked to acknowledge here. Is there a difference between Mr. Touré and the animal who attacked Miss Morin's daughter? Of course there is. This man for a living is prosecuting criminals. This other individual is a clear criminal with a record.
So what?
When we say massive deportation, should we consider them the same? Because
I don't even watch it. That I don't give a damn. Illegal is illegal. But anyway, let's now get into fair use. Hey y'all, let's see what Trump has to say. He said this 2 days ago. So let's get it, y'all. But I like Josh. Josh be getting in a butt. Let me see. Share screen. Let me see what he has to say in his interview. This was 2 days ago. It's only 4 minutes long. Then we'll get to the slides.
Today, President-elect Trump making his most explicit comments yet on his plans to deport millions of undocumented immigrants when he takes office.
Promises on the campaign trail.
Say that
Trump said he has no choice but to deport everyone who is living in the U.S. illegally, including possibly family members of those deported. He also spoke about ending birthright citizenship for children born to undocumented people.
first of all, they're costing us a fortune. But we're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it. And then we're starting with others, and we're going to see how it goes.
Who are the others?
Others are other people outside of criminals. We have convicted murderers. We don't mean people that are even on trial. We have people that have murdered numerous people are on our streets and in our farms, and we have to get them out of our country.
Joining us now is the president of Next Gen America, Cristina Cinsun Ramirez. Cristina, the president-elect has now said his deportation plans could include the 4 million families in the U.S. that have mixed immigration status. And he was saying the only way not to break up those families is to essentially just send them all back to their country of origin together, whether some of them have status or not. What is your reaction to that? And what should undocumented people be doing to prepare for this for themselves or for their loved ones?
Well, look, I live in Texas, and we have a very storied history in this country with deporting American citizens, right? Operation Wetback in 1954 was launched, and it deported thousands of Mexicans and American citizens and took their land in the process. So it's terrible. It's frightening to see that invoked in present day. And I want to remind people that are watching, especially people that are in mixed status families or know people that are undocumented and that could be impacted by this, that he cannot unilaterally end birthright citizenship. We know that we do have a broken immigration system, but it's broken not just for, it's broken also for undocumented families and American-born workers. Look, the status quo, and why I think he's saying he's not going to deport everyone now, he's already going back a little bit on what he said, is that in this country, nearly half of the people that pick our fruits and vegetables are undocumented. I live here in Texas. We have a housing crisis across the country. Half of the workforce in Texas, the construction workforce, are undocumented. So it would cause massive economic chaos. Now, we can build a system that protects immigrant workers and American-born workers and keeps families together. But Trump doesn't have any real interest in doing that. So it's not only going to be cruel, it's not only potentially going to be economically devastating if he does do it, but it's also going to be potentially unconstitutional, as he's even said he's wanted to use the military for some of these actions. People should be very concerned about the constitutionality of what he's trying to say he'd like to do.
Something that I thought was a bit unexpected is Trump also said he's going to work with Democrats to pass legislation that would ensure Dreamers, those are undocumented immigrants who entered the country as children, would be able to stay in the country. He blamed President Biden for not getting a law through that would have protected their citizenship or given them citizenship. Do you take Trump at his word here? Why does he seem to be moving his policy here? And will there be any will in the GOP-controlled Congress to actually do what he says he wants to do here?
Yeah, we know that Trump likes to speak out of both sides of his mouth, right? We hope that we can protect at least Dreamers in this country that have overwhelming support from the American people that want to see their status and ability to live and work in the country that they grew up and know as their home.
Everybody's a damn dreamer,
stay.
lady.
And so that's why you have him saying that. I actually think what we're going to see is, yes, we're going to see families separated, families that are mixed status impacted. But what we're going to see more than anything is a performance, because a lot of the industries that depend on undocumented workers, Donald Trump and his donors don't actually want to address. Some of the biggest contributors to the Republican Party here in my home state of Texas are some of the largest employers of undocumented workers. They like the status quo of an exploitable workforce. I don't think they're going to deport everyone. And if they do, it will be economic catastrophe for this country.
No, it won't.
Cristina Cinsun Ramirez, thank you so much.
All right, now let's get to it. Okay. First of all, here's my thought, my personal thought. Like she said, a lot of people are in Texas are employers for these undocumented immigrants. First of all, wait a minute. Hang on one second. This thing done came on. First of all, what the problem is that these big chain companies and these large employers, right, with these chains, what they're doing, and I'm going to put it in modern day perspective. I'm going to go back to the old days. What they're doing is hiring indentured servants. That's the problem. They want indentured servants in here, okay? Because that's exactly what it is. Indentured servants. I'm not playing with these people today. Indentured servants. These big chains want indentured servants. That's the problem. It wouldn't be an economic problem because guess what? The real legal Americans can apply for those jobs. But you want indentured servants in here to pay them below minimum wages. Y'all are sickening. If they don't do this, we voted for Trump to handle this mass deportation. Now, what we're going to do is, what I want to do is go through what he has power to do. We're going to go back to the laws. So let's get it, y'all. These people done pissed me off today. So let's get it. Oh, by the way, happy Friday. Let's get it. Martial law and mass deportation, removal of illegal immigrants from the United States. Martial law in the United States refers to times in United States history in which, in a region, state, city, or the whole United States was placed under the control of a military body. On a national level, both the U.S. president and the U.S. Congress have the power, within certain constraints, to impose martial law, since both can oversee the militia. In nearly every state, the governor has the power to impose martial law within the borders of the state. The martial law concept in the United States is closely tied to the right of habeas corpus, which is, in essence, the right to a hearing and trial on lawful imprisonment, or more broadly, the supervision of law enforcement by the judiciary. The ability to suspend habeas corpus is related to the imposition of martial law. Article 1, Section 9 of the United States Constitution. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless, when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. Hello? There have been many instances of the use of the military within the borders of the United States, such as during the Whiskey Rebellion, President Lincoln's suspension of habeas corpus in 1861 in order to arrest 1/3 of the Maryland State Assembly, and in the South during the Civil Rights Movement. But those acts are not tantamount to a declaration of martial law. In the United States, martial law is limited by several court decisions that were handed down between the American Civil War and World War II. In 1878, Congress passed the Parte Milligan Act, which forbids U.S. military involvement in domestic law enforcement without congressional approval. Throughout history, martial law has been imposed at least 68 times in limited, usually local areas of the United States. Martial law was declared for these reasons: twice for war or invasion, 7 times for domestic war or insurrection, 11 times for riot or civil unrest, 29 times for labor dispute, 4 times for natural disaster, and 15 times for other reasons. Habeas corpus was suspended federally only once in 1863 during the Civil War. So let's keep getting it, y'all. Now, the American Revolutionary War. During the American Revolutionary period, what we're going through are the periods, of martial law. During the American Revolutionary period, British authorities imposed martial law in several instances to suppress colonial resistance and maintain control. Notable examples include in Boston, 1774. In response to the Boston Tea Party, the British Parliament passed the Intolerable Acts, one of which, the Massachusetts Government Act, effectively placed Boston under martial law by closing its port and restricting town meetings. General Thomas Gage, appointed as the military governor, enforced these measures to quell dissent. In Virginia, November 7th, 1775, Lord Dunmore, the royal governor of Virginia, issued a proclamation declaring martial law and offering freedom to indentured servants and enslaved individuals who joined British forces against the rebelling colonists. This move aimed to weaken the colonial rebellion by disrupting the labor force and encouraging enslaved people to support the British cause. Now, that was then. Following, and this is in New York in 1776, following the British capture of New York City in September 1776, martial law was imposed to restore order and assert British authority. Governor William Tryon, through retaining his title, had limited power as military commanders took control of the city's administration. Now, that's when New York was on fire. You see the fire. You could look this up. New Orleans in the War of 1812. General Andrew Jackson imposed martial law in New Orleans. Upon arriving in the city on December 1st, 1814, Jackson, now the United States was created now, and we had the federal government. So General Andrew Jackson imposed martial law in New Orleans. Upon arriving in the city on December 1st, 1814, Jackson encountered a diverse and divided populace, including Anglo-Americans, Creoles, free people of color, and enslaved individuals. Now that's funny. Free Creole, Anglo-Americans, Creoles, free people of color. Okay, they mentioned no damn Africans, and enslaved individuals. Concerns about potential disloyalty and panic among residents led him to declare martial law on December 16th. Hey, Chief. I'm keeping it going. Okay, we still in New Orleans. Jackson imposed several measures. Strict curfews and travel restrictions were imposed on all residents. Jackson declared that anyone challenging his authority would be considered a spy or traitor, leading to mass arrests and overcrowded jails. These rules remained in effect for several months after hostilities had ended. When district and federal judges ruled against his actions, Jackson imprisoned them as well. Yo, district judges are federal judges. If they ruled against him, district judges and let me see, district and federal judges ruled against his actions, and Jackson put their asses in jail. Talk about power. He put him in jail. So now, excuse me, can I get a 1 if Trump has the same power? I'm just asking. I want to see. Does Trump have the same power? Give me a 1. That's what I thought too. And here's the other thing, and we still in New Orleans, y'all. Jackson warned newspapers not to publish information about the Treaty of Ghent unless he approved the content. He arrested a prominent legislator and banished several officials for criticizing his heavy-handed enforcement of martial law. Jackson later defended these actions, claiming that unrestricted press freedom could endanger military operations by conveying intelligence to the enemy or incite. I can't see what it says. Or inciting unrest. That's what it says. Still in New Orleans. Individuals expressing opposition to martial law, including Louisiana State Senator Louis Lulaire and U.S. District Judge Dominic Hall, were arrested. Lulaire criticized Jackson's policies in a newspaper article, leading to his arrest on Jackson's orders. Judge Hall issued a writ of habeas corpus for Lulaire's release, promoting Jackson to arrest Hall as well. Oh, Jackson, I think he was a mulatto. I'm not saying anything. He was a hot mess. So now I'm showing you what can be done. Now we in Illinois during the Mormon War. In 1843, Missouri sought to extradite Joseph Smith. That's him. I don't know if you can see it, but that's him hanging out the window. Because he knew they was coming for him. The founder of Mormonism, Joe Smith, for allegedly attempting to murder Missouri Governor Lilburn Boggs. He escaped arrest with the help of members of his church and was discharged on a writ of habeas corpus in the municipal court of Nuevo, where he was mayor, even though it was outside the court's jurisdiction. People in the neighboring town of Carthage, Illinois, felt that Smith was abusing his position in order to avoid arrest. The request that Governor Ford call out the militia to take Smith into custody, which Governor Ford declined to do. So a group of ex-Mormons published a paper called the Nuevo Expositor, which details Smith's alleged abuse of power. Together with the Nuevo City Council, Smith ordered the destruction of the Nuevo Expositor. This caused an uproar in the neighboring towns, which interpreted the order as an attack on the freedom of speech. Smith was charged with causing a riot, which the Nuevo courts dismissed. Neighboring cities raised money for a militia to go and capture Smith. Governor Ford arrived in Carthage and sent word to Smith that if he did not surrender, Ford would call out the militia. On June 18th, Smith declared martial law in Nuevo and called out the Nuevo Legion, an organized city militia of about 5,000 men to protect Nuevo from outside violence. Ford sent a group of men and abolished martial law. By this time, Smith had escaped into Iowa, but was convinced by his supporters to return. He was arrested for treason against the state of Illinois for declaring martial law. While awaiting trial in Carthage jail, Smith was murdered by a mob. In 1845, Nuevo was stripped of its charter for abuse of authority. This led to a series of conflict known as the Illinois Mormon War. Now, these supposed to be Christians. The Utah War in 1857. That was Governor Brigham Young declared martial law on September 15th, 1857 in Utah, shortly before being removed as governor. Tension between Utah Territory and the federal government was strained in 1857 due to the influence of theodemocracy and Governor Brigham Young's semi-theocratic government. Utah's rejection of federal appointees and Utah's acceptance of polygamy. In 1857, President James Buchanan sent U.S. forces to Utah Territory in what became known as the Utah War. So now he sent President Buchanan sent forces to Utah. So you don't think Trump can send the military to these damn sanctuary cities that want to harbor these undocumented immigrants and illegal immigrants, these indentured servants, because that's exactly what they are. The Mormons, fearing that the large U.S. military force had been sent to annihilate them, made preparations for defense. On September 15th, Young publicly declared martial law in Utah. It was widely circulated throughout the territory and was delivered by messenger to Colonel Alexander with the approaching army. The most important provision forbade all armed forces of every description from coming into this territory under any pretense whatsoever. It also commanded that all the forces in said territory hold themselves in readiness to march at a moment's notice to repel any and all such invasion. This is a hot mess. But more important, to California and Oregon bound travelers was the third section that stated martial law is hereby declared to exist in this territory, and no person shall be allowed to pass or repass into, through, or from this territory without a permit from the proper officer. Brigham Young ordered the people in Salt Lake City, Utah, to burn their homes and retreat south to Provo, Utah. Meanwhile, the Mormons harassed the approaching army. Eventually, Brigham Young was removed as governor and replaced by Alfred Cumming. In Baltimore, in April 1861, this is during Reconstruction, secessionists severed railroad links around Baltimore to prevent the passage of federal troops and Matrio southward. Union General Benjamin Butler entered the city the following month and took over administration from the civilian authorities, despite having no federal authority to do so. So, ex parte Milligan in 1863. I wanted to know what that was. So, on September 15, 1863, President Lincoln, this is Civil War time. On September 15, 1863, President Lincoln imposed congressionally authorized martial law on Kentucky, Maryland, and Missouri. The authorizing act allowed the president to suspend habeas corpus and civil rights throughout the entire United States. I'm going to read that again. On September 15, 1863, President Lincoln imposed congressionally authorized, that means Congress authorized, the martial law on Kentucky, Maryland, and Missouri. The authorizing act allowed the president to suspend habeas corpus and civil rights throughout the entire United States. That's what happens, which had already done under his own authority on April 27, 1861. Lincoln imposed a suspension on prisoners of war, spies, or raiders and abettors of the enemy, as well as on other classes of people, such as draft dodgers. The president's proclamation was challenged in Ex Parte Milligan, Title 71 of United States Code 2, 1866. The Supreme Court ruled that Lincoln's imposition of martial law by way of suspension of habeas corpus was unconstitutional in areas where the local courts were still in session. So Ex Parte Milligan, this is the case number. You want to look up and read on it. Is a landmark decision of the U.S. Supreme Court that ruled that the use of military tribunals to try civilians when civil courts are operating is unconstitutional. In this particular case, the court was unwilling to give former President Abraham Lincoln's administration the power of military commission jurisdiction, a part of the administration's controversial plan to deal with Union dissenters during the American Civil War. Oh my goodness, this is a hot mess, y'all. Justice Davis, who delivered the majority opinion, stated that martial rule can never exist when the courts are open and confine martial law to areas of military operations where war really prevails, and when it was a necessity to provide a substitute for a civil authority that had been overthrown. Chief Justice Salmon P. Chase and 3 associate justices filed a separate opinion concurring with the majority in the judgment, but asserting that Congress had the power to authorize a military commission, although it had not done so in Milligan's case. The case stemmed from a trial by a military commission of Lambden Milligan, Stephen Horsey, William Bowes, and Andrew Humphreys that convened at Indianapolis on October 21, 1864. The charges against the men included, among others, conspiracy against the U.S. government, offering aid and comfort to the Confederates, and inciting rebellion. Oh my goodness. On December 10th, 1864, Milligan, Bowes, and Horsey were found guilty on all charges and sentenced to hang. Oh, they hung them. Oh my. Humphreys was found guilty and sentenced to hard labor for the remainder of the war. The sentence for Humphrey was later modified, allowing his release. Y'all, is this a hot mess or what? President Andrew Johnson commuted the sentences for Milligan, Bowes, and Horsey to life in prison. Instead of them getting hung, they got life. On May 10, 1865, Milligan's legal counsel filed a petition in the Circuit Court of the United States for the District of Indiana at Indianapolis for a writ of habeas corpus, which called for a justification of Milligan's arrest. A similar petition was filed on behalf of Bowes and Horsey. The two judges who reviewed Milligan's petition disagreed about the issue of whether the U.S. Constitution prohibited civilians from being tried by a military commission and passed the case to the U.S. Supreme Court. The case was argued before the court on March 5th and March 13th, 1866. The decision was handed down on April 3rd, 1866. Now, y'all, okay, I'm gonna keep going. Now, the Great Chicago Fire. Let me take a sip of water. In 1871, this is the Great Chicago Fire. Yo. Now, remind you, we had colored senators in Congress and in y'all just in response to the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Chicago Mayor Roswell B. Mason declared a state of martial law and placed General Philip Sheridan in charge of the city on October 9, 1871. After the fire was extinguished, there were no widespread disturbances, and martial law was lifted within a few days. Now, this is the interesting thing. This is in 1871. Look at them damn buildings. Now, you tell me who built those buildings. This is 1871. Who built those buildings and had the tools to build them? And how long have they been there? Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. In 1892, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Striking mine workers blew up a mill and shot at strike breaking workers. The explosion leveled a 4-story building and killed one person. The governor declared martial law. At the same time, a request was made for federal troops to back guardsmen. Over 600 people were arrested. The list was whittled down to 24 ringleaders who were tried in the military court. While in prison, the mine workers formed a new union, the Western Federation of Miners. In San Francisco in 1906, following the earthquake of 1906, the federal troops stationed in Presidio were pressed into martial law service. They were posted throughout the city, and all dynamite was confiscated. The dynamite was used to destroy buildings in the path of fires to prevent the fires from spreading. My. This is 1906. Colorado Coalfield War. In 1914, the imposition of martial law climaxed during the Colorado Coalfield War. Dating back decades, the conflicts came to a head in Ludlow, Colorado in 1913. The Colorado National Guard was called in to quell the strikers. For a time, the peace was kept, but it is reported that the makeup of the guard station at the mines began to shift from impartial normal troops to companies of loyal mine guards. Clashes increased, and the proclamation of martial law was made by the governor, eventually resulting in the Ludlow massacre. President Wilson sent in federal troops, eventually ending the violence. On August 19, 1917, the Spokane office of the Industrial Workers of the World War, or Wobblies, was raided. Leaders arrested and martial law was declared. The military authority was the National Guard, controlled by the U.S. War Department. This occurred in reaction to a demand by World War I leader James Rowan that all prisoners of the class war, he meant wobbly strikers and strike leaders involved in a statewide lumber strike, be released, or Spokane would face a general strike. The repression of the Democratic Radical Union in Spokane and across the state took place in the context of the wobbly-led lodgers and sawmill workers' ongoing strike for the 8-hour day and sanitary conditions in the camps. The World War I was militant, radical, vocal, and consistently nonviolent. The larger context of the repression of the Union was hysteria combined with employer opposition to union demands. The nationwide suppression of the 1WW during the war involved physical violence, vandalism, and the imprisonment of hundreds of union members and leaders. West Virginia Cold Wars. During the events of the West Virginia Cold Wars, martial law was declared in the state of West Virginia. At the behest of Governor Cornwell, federal troops had been dispatched to Mingo County to deal with the striking miners. Damn. The Army officer in charge acted ostensibly under the suspension clause of Article 1 of the United States Constitution. Selectively, accounts show that he jailed only Union miners and did not allow assembly of any kind. If his soldier found any Union miners, they immediately took them and imprisoned them. Jails filled up so quickly that he had to release miners. As it went, miners were arrested, jailed, and released without any sort of trial. After a time when the trial of Sid Hatfield began, the military occupation and veritable military dictatorship, Governor Cornwell of the Army officer ended. Many of the miners were not released from jail. It was only the first of 3 times the federal troops would be called to quiet the miners in the West Virginia Mine War. Minneapolis, Minnesota. In 1934, Minnesota Governor Floyd B. Olson placed the city of Minneapolis under martial law and deployed the National Guardsmen of the 34th Infantry Division due to escalating violence during the Minneapolis General Strike of 1934 after Bloody Friday, when police opened fire on picketers. On July 26, these deaths of protesters at the hands of the police, farmer labor, Governor Olson declared martial law and mobilized 4,000 National Guardsmen. I don't want to read. That's just in Minneapolis. Minneapolis. I'm just showing you the pictures at this point. The Teamster strike. They had I remember that. I remember that movie with Jimmy Hoffa, the Teamster strike in 1934, who we still can't find. See all that? That was woo. Look at that, y'all. Oh my goodness. This is a hot mess. They was turning cars over and shit. Look at somebody grandfather swinging a bat at somebody. In San Francisco, California governor placed the docks of San Francisco under martial law, citing riots and tumult resulting from a dock worker strike. Territory of Hawaii in World War II, they declared martial law when they dropped that bomb. And this is in Alabama. Gordon Persons sent the National Guards, placed it on martial law. The Freedom Riders, I know y'all know this, in 1961 in Alabama. And then, this is the last of it, y'all. My voice is getting so hoarse. I've been doing a lot of reading. Chief Hawkeye, you a mess. 2007 on National Defense Authorization Act. HR 5122, known as the John Warner National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2007, was a bill passed in the United States Congress on September 29, 2006, and signed by President George W. Bush on October 17, 2006, becoming public law. In addition to allocating funding for the armed forces, it also gave the president the power to declare martial law and to take command of the national units of each state without the consent of governors. So I saved that for the last because that is the act that was approved by Congress that gives Trump the power, not only from the federal level of military armed forces, but he can go to each state without no governor's consent to do this mass deportation. I'm going to read it again and correct me if I'm wrong. The 2007 National Defense Authorization Act was a bill passed in the United States Congress. Power is in Congress. On September 29, 2006, and signed by President George Bush on October 17, 2006, becoming public law. In addition to allocating funding for the armed forces, it also gave the president the power to declare martial law and to take command of the National Guard units of each state without the consent of state governors. So if I'm reading this right or I'm not reading this wrong, if he wanted to do mass deportations, he could make the federal troops, which is the armed forces, and the National Guards in every state, he could order them to get their butts out of here and take their families with them. And does this act give that permission? Bush did it. Bush signed this shit. So I don't know what that lady was talking about. So in 2007, let's see what happened. The Senate held hearings about recent changes to the insurrection of 1807. Patrick Leahy of Vermont sought to reverse the 2006 amendments to the Insurrection Act, which had given the United States president new powers to use military for domestic disturbances, terrorism, insurrection, etc., and even changed the name from Insurrection Act to Enforcement of the Laws to Restore Public Order. In the Senate hearing, Senator Kit Bond testified, Mr. Chairman, the measure that was included in last year's Congressional Defense Authorization Act, I think, was ill-conceived, unnecessary, and dumb. See, these senators, they want to protect the citizens of their state. Well, not so much that. So that they could let these indentured servants come in here, aka illegal, undocumented immigrants and undocumented immigrants. But even some of the members of SASC who should have did not know about it. But this is an influential panel, and you know how it has changed the old law. And we now know that all 50 of our nation's governors, adjutants general, and local law enforcement are opposed to it. Nobody knows where it came from, allowing the president to invoke the act and declare martial law when public order breaks out as a result of natural disaster, epidemic, terrorist attack is very ambiguous and gives him broad authority potentially to usurp the role of the governor. Ugh. They want to stop this shit. Based on opposition by Congress, individual state governors, law enforcement community, and absence of clarity on who even introduced these changes, the enforcement of the laws to restore public order law was repealed on January 2008 based on Senate Pat Lee's proposal to repeal. And the previous Insurrection Act was restored. As of 2020, the Insurrection Act of 1807 still applies in limiting a U.S. president's ability under Title 10 to federalize National Guard troops for martial law purposes. So, I don't know what he can and can't do, but he damn sure can go in a state with the federal troops and get them out of there, despite or regardless. So, I just think that this is crazy. Did y'all know that United States was put in and martial law was enforced so many times in the United States? Did y'all know that? So this is going to be very interesting because he can impose martial law because of the multitude of undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants. Okay? Illegal. I don't care. What these people are failing to understand is that they're illegal. It's against the law. And the states are harboring fugitives. Once you step into this country illegally, you are a fugitive. Bottom line. When the state takes you in and they sneak to your state, you're harboring them. And they should go to jail like they did back in the old days. They should bring back the beheading laws, but I don't know. They need to go to jail. I don't know how this is going to all play out, but I hope Trump sticks to his mass deportation of all the illegal immigrants. All they're doing is letting these immigrants in here so that they could reinforce indentured servitude. Then when they come here, they're indentured servants. I don't give a damn how you slice it. They need to. Indentured servants, that's what they're doing. And guess what? They have these nonprofit organizations, okay, that get these donations from rich people. I'll say the 1%. They have nonprofit organizations that help meet the transitional needs to these illegal immigrants. So isn't that really cool? They have the 1%, all the wealthy people, funding the nonprofits that take care of these immigrants when they get in here. Okay? Talk about dirty money washing. And that's how they harbor their fugitives. They pay the nonprofits to help harbor them. But when you look at nonprofits, donors, you know who's helping them. See, the nonprofits that get all these donations to help these illegal immigrants, they're the hiring agency to get all the indentured servants in here for the low wages. Isn't that something? You got the nonprofit. They're the hiring agency. Oh, they go to the nonprofits, and the nonprofits help get these illegal indentured servants to work in what we can get you a job. Where you from? Oh, you came over the border. You're from here. So we can get you a nice job at Walmart or Dunkin' Donuts, any big chain, Wendy's, McDonald's, all these different jobs. You work on a farm, and we'll get you, a job, get you some housing. They already got the housing in the EBT card. So, who's helping the indentured servants to get jobs? The nonprofits. I'm not playing. This is 2025, and we still are doing the indentured servitude stuff. So I'm going to put the link in the chat because that's all I really wanted to talk about today. Really. If anybody want to challenge me on whether these nonprofits are indeed the hiring agencies for indentured servants, they hire the nonprofits, make a relationship with the big chain employers like Walmart, or just think of all the places that pay low dog wages. Think about all of them. So I'm saying exercise martial law and get them out of here, because what they're doing is taking away jobs from teenagers when they get out of high school and, there's summer jobs from college. Yeah. So the link is in the chat. I want to hear. The panel's open. Let's talk about it, y'all.
YGF beats, baby. Elevate my hustle, gotta get your stress.
Oh, hold up. Multicultural, whatever your name is, do not hit my link. You are never welcome to my panel, ever. Stay over in Smoke's area. All right, the link is open. Y'all can hit the link. Hit the link, Hog. Anybody.
Cause you the kind of girl I wanna make to my wife. Ain't no point that anyone can make a know that ain't right. They can't tell me how I feel or walk a day in my life. For all the minds I kill, told you many times you really mine for real. Cause something about your eyes always shine for real. Stick it out with me as you gon' sign the deal. For all the moms I kill. Told you many times you really moms for real. Cause some that your eyes really shine for real. Stick it out with me as you gon' sign the deal, yeah. Little crazy light, baby, fiending on her lately. Heavy on my mental, so I'm in a booth for wavy. See me, I don't give a fuck, I'm open, I ain't shady. These niggas see it, so they hating. Sipping bottles again, dugging all of the feds. Putting loaves inside the cover, we ain't splitting no bread. Getting all these different fabrics off your neck and your head. Hope that karma ain't gon' get me for what's coming ahead. My baby said she wanna love song. My baby said she wanna love song. My baby said she wanna love song.
If nobody don't have any questions or will hit the panel, I'm just gonna log off. So I'll wait a little while longer. I'll wait.
Yeah, I'm singing to elevate my hustle. Gotta get your stress. Cause you the kind of girl I wanna make to my wife. Ain't no point that anyone can make, I know they ain't right. They can't tell me how I feel or walk a day in my life. For all the moms I kill. Told you many times you really moms for real. Cause something about your eyes always shine for real. Stick it out with me as you gon' sign the deal. For all the moms I kill. Told you many times you really moms for real. Cause something about your eyes really shine for real. Stick it out with me as you gon' sign the deal, yes. Something really shine for real. Something really shine for real. Something really shine for real. In your eyes it shine for real. For all the moms I kill. Told you many times we're really moms for real. Stick it out with me as you gon' sign the deal. Stick it out with me as you gon' ride. For all the moms I kill. Told you many times you're really moms for real. Stick it out with me as you gon' sign the deal. Baby, is you mine?